It is September 2023, and Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course is open once again. And if any of those words are interesting to you, then the chances are you arrived on this video because you're a self-published author considering buying Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course. And if that's true, you came to the right place. Stay tuned, and I will tell you everything you need to know about whether or not the course is worth it in the context of self-publishing in September 2023. And if none of that made any sense to you at all and you're not interested, then move along. I'll be back with another video about James Bond very shortly. Hi guys, it's me, and if you're arriving on this video for the first time, my name is Roland Hume and I am a successful self-published author. By successful, I mean I have sold over 69,000 copies of my romance books about a motorcycle gang called the Knuckleheads MC. 69,000 books, that equates to just a hair's breadth under $300,000 in royalties, which before the economy went to shit was, the price of a nice house. There we go. So I have been pretty successful in my self-publishing career. I'm not where I want to be, and I'm continuing to move upwards, but I am aware of the fact that I am where a lot of self-published authors would like to be. And hopefully what I can do is pay it forward a bit and help some other authors get closer to where I am, and hopefully one day even more than that. And I credit a lot of things towards the reason I've been successful in self-publishing. I mean, writing half-decent books is probably the most important part of it. And I have been a writer since I was 9 years old. When I was 9 years old, hammering away on my mother's IBM electric typewriter, I wanted to be an author. My mother was an author. My family has been in publishing and printing for 4 generations, so it's in my blood. But I'm not especially gifted, I'm not especially talented. I just believe in this one philosophy that I've been espousing for years, that anybody has the potential to be a successful self-published author if they learn the craft of writing and follow the process of successful self-publishing. And both of these things are things they can learn. The craft of writing, that's more complicated. As Hemingway said, we are all apprentices in a craft in which no one becomes a master. But the process of successful self-publishing, that is much simpler. But it is something you have to learn. People are always saying, oh, you can figure it out. You've got all this information on the internet and you can find it all out. But if you want to leapfrog years of trial and error and thousands of dollars in experiments with advertising and stuff, you want to find a resource that will teach you what you need to know. And many of them have cropped up over the last years. But when it comes to how to advertise as an author, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, is a man called Mr. Mark Dawson, who writes a bunch of thrillers about a spy called John Milton. He sold millions of copies, and to self-published authors, he's probably even more famous as the man behind Ads for Authors, this course that he created which teaches authors how to advertise their books. And I'm an alumni of that course. I took it in 2015 when it was pretty much brand new. In fact, these days he has 2 courses. There's Self-Publishing 101, which teaches you how to self-publish, and there's Ads for Authors, and they're 2 separate courses. Back when I took it, it was the same course. But the benefit is you spend the money on that course and you get lifetime access, which isn't just lifetime access to the course materials you bought that year, but every year Mark Dawson and his team update the course to be relevant to what's changed and evolved in self-publishing, and you will always have access to that. So since 2015, I've been able to go back every year and see the new updated course materials and meet new instructors and new lecturers and find new information about how to be successful as a self-published author in that particular year. So in the context of September 2023, a bunch of things have changed and updated in Mark Dawson's course, and I still have access to it. So yeah, looking back now, when I first took the course in 2015, it was on sale, I think, for $549. I remember I published, I don't know, 6 or 7 novels at that time. I was making like $30 a day, maybe, which I thought was great. But it was a big expense for me. I was like, do I really want to spend $549 in this course? But I have to admit now, years later, having made a smidge under $300,000 in royalties, yeah, I've made my money back many, many times. And I have probably accelerated the pace of my career by years by following Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course. And I can prove that it's effective through a particular misadventure of mine. So last year, I accidentally got kicked off Facebook, which was my primary advertising platform. My phone had a factory reset, and I had a little authenticator app on there to get access to Facebook because people kept trying to hack me. And when I lost that authenticator app on my phone, I wasn't able to access my own account. Oh, it was so frustrating. I had to take Facebook to court to get access to my account back. And it meant for almost a year, I wasn't able to do any advertising at all. And yes, that was frustrating. But it also meant over the course of a year, I got to see how many of my books I sold without doing any advertising whatsoever. And yeah, it worked out in over an 8-month period. So like a clean 8-month period in which I hadn't been doing any advertising for a while. I didn't publish any new books. Over that period, I made $3,585.20 in book sales, which averaged out to $448.15 per month. And I don't know, that might not sound like much to me, but to some authors, that might sound pretty good. You know, I was sleeping or walking the dog or cooking dinner or watching television or playing Lego with the kids, and I was making money every single day, $448.15 per month, without doing anything, which is great. But obviously that is not enough to pay the mortgage. That is not enough to buy my stupid British sports cars or my funny hats or my vast amount of beer that I drink. So I wanted to increase that. And fortunately, I got access back to my Facebook account, and I was able to use what I'd learned in Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course to jump into advertising and see how much I could accelerate that. Now, I haven't spent that much money on advertising this year, because you know, it's difficult sometimes to find the money for advertising, and it's a little frustrating that you have to wait 60 days after month's end to get your money from Amazon for the book sales you made. But I am able to track every single penny that I spent. And this year, when I started advertising again, I spent $4,104.43 on Facebook ads. Whoo! That's quite a lot. That's slightly more than I made last year in book sales. But here's the result. Over an 8-month period, so completely the same like period as I was not advertising last year, I made a total of $11,069.90 in royalties, which you can see is a significant amount more than I made last year. So that actually works out to be $7,484.70 more that I made this year when I was advertising than I made last year when I wasn't advertising. As I said, I spent $4,104.43 on adverts. So if you take the cost of advertising out of the increased amount of money that I made, that leaves a total of here we go, $3,380.27. So the amount of book sales I made minus the cost of advertising was $3,380.27 more than it was last year. So you compare the amount of money that I spent advertising, $4,104.43, against the amount of increased book sales over last year, $3,380.27, and that is an 82% profit margin, which means for every dollar that I invested in advertising, I got that dollar back plus 82 cents. So I can say unequivocally, having examined it over the course of an entire year, you definitely make your money back if you advertise your books following the process that Mark Dawson outlines, as long as your book's good. And that's really the thing. I can sit here and I can say, yes, I made an 82% profit margin on my books, but I have the advantage of having books that are pretty good. And one of the interesting things that I found is the book that you advertise makes all the difference. When I started off advertising again at the beginning of the year, I was advertising book 1 in my Motorcycle Club series, and I was making a profit, but not a very good one. And then I started advertising book 2 instead, which is much more lurid, sold to the cartel. This awesome guy on the cover. I design my own covers. I'm pretty good at it, I have to admit. And that's when I started to make a serious amount of money. And then, here we go. I also started advertising the third book in my series, Beauty and the Biker Boss. And that was, again, I started to make a serious amount of money. This is the truth that you have to face before you invest in a course like Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course. What he teaches you works if your book is good enough. And that's really the crux of the whole thing. I have an advantage when it comes to self-publishing and stuff because I come from an advertising background. Most of my career before I went off to become a self-published author was in advertising. I started my career selling radio advertising, writing radio commercials. I came to America and I worked for an advertising agency. So I understand advertising, and it all stems back to one piece of advice one client of mine gave me, a double glazing company back in the south of England all those years ago. The guy said, if you are advertising something that people don't want to buy, they still won't buy it. So what you have to do to make your advertising successful is have a product that people want to buy. And in my case, I was fortunate that my books were books that people wanted to buy. So I could spend a certain amount of money on advertising and get more back. But I didn't get there overnight. Mark Dawson's course taught me all I needed to know to be able to set up an advertising process that worked and that was efficient and that optimized the amount I was spending on advertising, optimized the amount of clicks I got and the results that went through. He teaches you about using things like attribution tags to be able to track the buyer behavior of the people you send to Amazon. All of this stuff is vitally important, but at the end of the day, what really, really matters is that you have a book that people want to buy. So you have to have a really cool cover. You have to have a really compelling blurb. Your look inside, the first few pages that people get to sample on Amazon has to be really, really gripping. And that was the part that I think was most difficult for me to figure out. So when I started advertising my books, I wasn't quite happy with the results, so I rewrote the blurb. And funnily enough, I changed the font of the blurb on the Amazon product page, and I started to get 50% more sales. And then I rewrote the first few chapters, so when people clicked on the look inside to get a sample, it was a much more compelling, much more tightly edited look inside, and I managed to double the number of people who bought my book and who converted into paying customers. So it all comes down to having a product, a book, that people really want to buy. But if you have that, or if you're willing to experiment with that and learn how to do it and, spend money and maybe not get a return on it while you make changes and track those changes and see whether they make things better or make things worse. If you are able to put in that work and have the courage to continue forward, eventually you will hopefully get to the stage where you spend more, or you get more back in book sales than you spend on advertising. That's what happened to me. And I do truly think that anybody out there has the potential to achieve that, but there is going to be work and time, a bit of courage and a bit of faith involved. So that is the part that, like, the special sauce that in some ways Mark Dawson can't teach you in his course. I mean, he does cover all that stuff, but that's what's going to make it work. But apart from that, Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course is what you need to teach you how to go through all of the process for advertising, and not just on Facebook. In fact, I have here a little printout. So in September 2023, Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course, which costs $849, includes a segment on Facebook ads for authors. This is the bread and butter. This is the one that made my career viable as a self-published author, and that teaches you how to advertise your books on Facebook and how to advertise them with optimizing your audience and stuff like this. And to me, it's still like the best place to advertise your books. And what he teaches you is really, really valuable, not just in the context of advertising books. So I used to have an ARC business, an advanced reading copy business, where I would send out advanced reading copies of authors' books to readers so they'd leave a review on Amazon before the book was published, because getting reviews is a big part of being successful as a self-published author. And I was able to create an economically viable business that I ended up selling for a profit because I used Facebook advertising based off what I'd learned from Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course. So I will say, if you're in any way entrepreneurial and you want to learn how to do Facebook advertising effectively, Mark Dawson's course will teach you how to advertise your books, but also how to advertise in general. It's great. The other thing that is very important is advertising on Amazon. I think I've mentioned it. It's very frustrating these days because Amazon, it used to be a beautiful place where you could write a good book, you could launch it with a really strong launch campaign, and then people would buy it, and you just have organic book sales. So I used to publish a book, spend a lot of money launching it, and then just sit back and watch the book sales roll in. And then I was literally making consistently, month after month, more than $10,000. And it would be a case of I would make $10,000 the first month, 7 the next month, 5 the next month. But that would give me enough time to write and publish the next book, which would launch at 10,000 a month, then go to 7 and 5. And it was like a snowball. And as long as you could ride the crest of that wave, you could have a very comfortable life as a self-published author. Those days have passed, but the potential is still there. But one of the things that has changed, the reason that isn't the case anymore, is because Amazon has introduced a lot of advertising into their Amazon.com homepage itself. And you can leverage that by advertising your books on Amazon. And I do that using a technique that Mark Dawson taught in his Ads for Authors course. And it's interesting, I don't make a huge amount of money advertising on Amazon. Most of my money comes in by advertising on Facebook, but I still make a bit. I have a very, very targeted strategic campaign called defensive advertising. And that means when people from Facebook arrive on my product page for my books on Amazon, instead of seeing adverts for all these other authors' books, they will see adverts for my other books. Yeah, defensive advertising. And that means over the course of 2023, I've only spent $217.02 on Amazon advertising, but it's resulted in 25 book sales. $99.75 those book sales brought in, which is $69.83 in royalties. But I also got a lot of money through Kindle Unlimited page reads, and I got $224.33 in Kindle Unlimited page reads, which means in total I made $294.16 in royalties for the $217.02 that I spent in advertising, which is a 35% profit margin. So yeah, Ads for Authors teaches you what you need to know to advertise profitably. And I'm making 82% profit on my Facebook advertising, 35% profit on my ads of my Amazon advertising. And so I am spending less money than I'm getting back in royalties for my advertising. That's the key, isn't it? From that point, you want to scale it up. And Ads for Authors will help you learn how to scale things up. It's not as easy as you think it would be. You'd think, oh, I'm doing all right spending $10 a day. If I move it up to $100 a day, I'll make just as much money. No, you have to be strategic about how you scale things up. But it's all stuff you can learn if you have a course like Ads for Authors. BookBub. I haven't really done much with BookBub, but there is a segment in Ads for Authors on how to advertise on BookBub. And I know, again, most people, when they look at BookBub, it's such a great website, and I know from many people that BookBub's like special deals or something, it can be a career-changing opportunity if you get one of those. But you can advertise on BookBub, and there is a very specific route that you have to follow where you invest money spending money advertising to specific groups of authors and piece it together. It's not as intuitive as you think it would be, but when it's successful, it's very successful, and the Ads for Authors course teaches you how to do that. TikTok. It also teaches you how to advertise your books on TikTok. And I'll tell you what, I know from having spoken to a lot of authors that TikTok is really where it's at. I do a podcast with Fully Hidden Gems Books, and we interviewed an author called Jen Milliken who made a TikTok video about one of her 4-year-old books, and it went viral, and she got like 9 million views, and it turned her book that was 4 years old, just languishing there, into a #1 bestseller, sold thousands of copies, and even got optioned for a movie. So TikTok, huge opportunities are there if you know how to do it organically and paid advertising. And Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course in 2023 has a segment on how to advertise on TikTok. So yeah, you're covering a lot of bases here. And also you get a bunch of other stuff that they've included over the course of the years. There's a segment called Ad Design for Authors. So if you're sitting there being like, okay, I want to advertise on Facebook, what does an advert look like? They teach you how to put together an advert. It's visually striking and it's going to attract people's attention. They also have a segment that's included in the course called how to write better, simpler ads. See, I come from a copywriting background. That's one of the reasons I've been successful. I used to work as an advertising copywriter, and yeah, writing really effective copy and putting it with really effective ad design, that can optimize your results. Facebook Messenger bots for authors is another course that Mark Dawson has included in Ads for Authors. I haven't really looked at that. I think the word bots makes me cringe. And it seems really obnoxious to be using bots in your messenger to talk to people, but it is an effective thing that many authors use, especially when they have an author page on Facebook and people go to that author page and the little messenger thing pops up and it's like, hi, how can we help you today? That is actually quite an effective tool to promote your books and get people to buy your books, and Mark Dawson teaches you how to use it. And also there's this thing called SPF University, Self-Publishing Formula University, which is a ton of webinar content and lectures and stuff that Mark Dawson's crew makes available to people who are part of Ads for Authors. And there's just tons of stuff there about a bunch of eclectic things. So, you know, if you want to calculate your read through, as in how many people will buy book 1 in your series and read all the way through to like book 12, I have a 12 book series, they teach you how to calculate that. If you want to use a tool like Scrivener, they will teach you how to use Scrivener so it's useful when you are putting your book together. If you want to figure out like the mindset of being a successful self-published author, they will teach you that and teach you what you need to prioritize and what you need to work on. And because most of us authors are kind of like scatty and ADHD, that's quite difficult to put together yourself, and so he teaches you that. And also there's stuff like understanding your metadata. What is metadata? You know, if you're not in e-commerce, you might even know what metadata is, but that's like your keywords and your headlines and your title and all the other bits of seemingly inconsequential information that can transform the visibility of your book on Amazon. So there is a ton of content there that teaches you everything you need to know to be successful as a self-published author if you go through it. And yeah, as I said, one of the challenges is if you're going to advertise your books have to be books that people want to buy. And if your books are not books that people want to buy, it doesn't matter how much effort and time you put into Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course or how much money you spend, you are not going to make your money back. But if you're able to publish books that people do want to buy, you can definitely make a profit. I've just shown you that I'd be making a profit with it with 2023. The second thing is you actually have to put in the work to go through all of the material for Ads for Authors. And if I have some criticism of Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course, and maybe it's because I've been living in America too long and Americans are very like, brevity is their watchword. Yeah, Mark Dawson's courses are kind of a bit talky and a bit waffly, and it's almost like you're sitting in the sofa at a dinner party next to somebody drinking gin and tonic, and they're explaining it to you, and there are a few tangents they go off. So, yeah, I found it was useful to like be doing something else, like the washing up or cooking dinner or something, listening to it, being able to watch it on the screen, and also maybe speed it up to like 1.3 or something, so they talk a little faster. It sounds like Alvin and the Chipmunks are teaching you the course, but it does, for my ADHD squirrel brain, it means I'm able to concentrate and get a lot more out of it. But if you go through all of that material and you have to do it, then you get what you need to do, which is important. Yeah, I've worked with a lot of authors who have bought Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course, and when I speak to them, they're like, yeah, my advertising is not where I want it to be. I bought Mark Dawson's course, I haven't gone through it yet. I'm like, well, I'm delighted to work with you. However, you've got everything you need to know right there. So yeah, that is my overview of Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course. And the bottom line is, if you want to be a successful self-published author, the opportunity exists for you. But in the context of self-publishing in September 2023, advertising has to be a cornerstone of that. And Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course really gives you everything you need to know. And if that is what you wanted to hear, and if you are interested in buying Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course based off what I've told you, then I'll tell you what, do me a solid. The reason I make these videos every year is because, you know, if people end up buying the course, if they use a link that I've got down in the description down below and buy the course, I get a little bit of money in return. And I try to be honest about it. I'm not trying to sell you something you don't need. I took the course myself. I am a successful self-published author. I made 82% profit on my advertising this year, so I know it works. So yeah, if you could do me a solid, if you end up deciding to buy Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course, please use that link below. I'll get a little bit of a kickback, but it inspires me to make these videos every year. And I'll sweeten that deal a little bit, because I remember what I told you earlier about you need to write a book that people actually want to buy. It's like the special sauce to make advertising work. And my advertising background means I've got a particularly good understanding of that. So I actually put together a course myself called, So You Self-Published a Book on Amazon, Now What? And that teaches you not how to advertise, but how to optimize your book so people will actually buy it. It talks about, you know, the title of your book, the metadata, the keywords, and all of the other bits of your book that appear on Amazon. Your book cover, how you can make that as grabbing as possible. Your blurb, how you can write an effective blurb. Your look inside, how you can write a look inside that makes people want to actually buy your book. All the different things that are the special sauce that make your book something people want to buy. I've got a course on those little aspects that will hopefully fill in all the blanks that I've previously complained that Mark Dawson's course doesn't have. And if you decide to use that link below and buy Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course, I will send you access to my course on the special sauce. So you self-publish a book on Amazon, Now What? For free. So I think that, in conjunction with Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course, is a really, really valuable asset and a really, really valuable tool for self-published authors. And I don't know, hopefully it can help you transform the trajectory of your advertising career and move forward and go where you want to be. So that's it. That's all I've got to say. If you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments. But yeah, if you decide to buy Mark Dawson's Ads for Authors course, please use my link down below. I would really, really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll be back with another video about self-publishing and not about self-publishing very, very soon. Thanks very much. I'm Roland Hume. I've sold 67,000 copies of my books. If you want to find out how I did it, I've got a link right here you can click. And otherwise, don't forget to subscribe. I've got more videos coming soon. Thank you.